to Sagas and Sass Season 4, brought to you by Geek Saga Entertainment. I'm Tara, along with fellow hosts Jonathan and Nami.
This episode will cover Bo. Oh,
Bow.
I'm sorry, Bow. God, I'm part one of Golden Sun, the second installment of Fierce Brown's Red Rising saga. Please note that if you are watching this as a webcast, there is a chance you will hear some spoilers for other books in the Red Rising series during our live webcasts. However, if you're listening to this as a podcast, any spoilery bits have been edited out.
If you're watching us live, join us in the chat, or after the fact, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as Sagas and Sass, or email us sagasandsass@gmail.com to continue the conversation. Additionally, please note that the views expressed in this show are those of the hosts' individuals and do not necessarily represent the show as a whole.
Yeah, YouTube started handing out handles, by the way. So we literally are youtube.com/@sagas and sass now. Yay. No more of this like 80,000 character YouTube link. So don't forget that we now have a Patreon with 10 tiers ranging from $1 a month to $40 a month. It offers tons of ways to support us and receive some great perks in return. You can check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
And now let's dive into the first 3 chapters of Golden Sun.
As Golden Sun begins, we learn that Darrow is now commanding a starship in the Society's Academy. After the Institute, which teaches the Golds to survive and conquer, the Academy teaches peace and interstellar exploration. Oops, sorry, wrong series. It teaches them war. Now, Darrow, along with Roke and Tactus from his time at the Institute, and a new friend named Victra, is facing his final test, which involves leading a fleet with dummy munitions to see which group of students can, last the longest. Unfortunately for Darrow, the Bolognas sent their son Carnus, Cassius's older brother, to the academy, with the order to, beat Darrow because the person he happened to have to kill in the passage at the Institute was, Julian.
And as it turns out, Carnus and Darrow's fleets are the last 2 left in this final Academy test. And while Rogue insists that they are flying into a trap, Darrow has laid a trap of his own. Traps within traps within traps, y'all. And for a moment, it seems as if they've won, until Carnus springs a second trap, one that involves ramming Darrow's ship with a nearly destroyed ship of his own. Darrow immediately orders an evacuation, but he knows that many of the low colors under his command will die. As he is trying to make his valet, a rose, aka a high pink, named Theodora, sorry, that's wrong. As he is trying to save his valet, a rose, aka a high pink, named Theodora, the collision occurs and they are thrown across the bridge. When Darrow comes to, the bridge escape pod is gone because fuck you, Taxis, and he has to carry Theodora to his quarters where he has another pod. They make it with the help of some grays, but they can't all fit in the pod, and Darrow even has to argue with them about Theodora getting one of the seats.
As soon as they're clear of the ship, Darrow has one of the Greys load him into a starshell with the plan to launch himself at Carnus's bridge. But before he can, the Proctors override his computer, and, that's that. Game over, Darrow. You lost. Back at the Academy, Rogue tries to convince Darrow that coming in second place is something to be proud of, but Darrow not only knows that it won't be enough for Augustus, he is also upset about the 833 men and women who were not golds who died in their little test. He goes off on his own to soak in a hot spring pool in the Academy Gardens, but there's no relaxation to be had as a bunch of Bolognas show up to beat the shit out of him. Granted, Darrow does try to put up a fight, but he's injured, naked, and his only weapon is a stick. And more than all of that, he's 1 against 7. And soon he's on the ground getting pissed on because, hey, guess we weren't going to get through this book without that happening to someone. Twitting, I guess?
Yeah. So we open this book with a battle. Granted, it's a fake one, but a little bit more jumping into things right from the get-go than the first book, which it's a little bit off-putting at first. I'm not saying I don't like it, but it's definitely a big change from the way book 1 started. So we're in this kind of faux battle, and Darrow thinks he's going to beat Carnus, and man, like Roke comes in with the hard truths when he says, guard your hubris and remember Pax, pride kills. And Darrow, like,
So Telemanus.
I know, like, always R.I.P. Pax, honestly.
Telemanus.
And it was totally Darrow's, being so sure of himself that allowed Pax to die. But, this is again like traps within traps within traps. And for some reason, like, this is a very Darrow is as Darrow does moment, because Pax is like, Roke is like, this is obviously a trap. And Darrow's like, yeah, I know. By the way, I have a trap of my own. He just didn't think to tell his friends slash lieutenants that he had a trap laid of his own. Like, did he think that in this academy game, his BFFs from the Institute were going to call up Carnus Albolona and be like, hey, by the way, we're also laying a trap for you. You better have backup. I don't know. It
was pretty silly because all I could think of was Darrow just being like, I want to be the dude with the plan. Only I get the plan. You don't get the plan. It's my plan.
Well, and especially when at the beginning of the battle, he is thinking about having his people who are close to him, close with him. And he says, my lieutenants monitor my fleet. At any other time, they'd be on their personal destroyers or leading men in leechcraft. But at the moment of victory, I want my fellows near. Yet when my lieutenants stand here at my side, I feel that separation, that deep gulf between their world and mine. So I get it. I get that there's still that I'm a red really deep down and you all are gold thing going on. But at the same time, like, you literally brought them into your bridge for this moment, but you didn't tell them what you were going to do? Like,
it seems more like anything like it the way he does it, like the way he talks about it makes it sound like he's like, I want everybody here to share in my victory. But the way he goes about things makes it clear that he's like, I want everyone to see me victorious. And it's like pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually hadn't really thought about it that way because I've got a lot of issues with Darrow that I really probably won't bring up too much until later in the series, at the very least later in this book. But yeah, I mean, go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, I was going to say, what is it with young warlords that don't share their tactics with their subordinates in series we like?
Yeah, well, because if everybody communicated, there would be no series.
There wouldn't be a story. That's the answer. It's convenient plot devices.
There's got to be a better way to write it, though. Like, please, somebody someday figure out. I mean, and the thing is, like, while he didn't share his plans with everybody, he thinks about how when in that moment where they think they're victorious, oops, though, as the victory is transmitting like throughout the ship, it's, he's saying it's not just my victory. Each man and woman shares it in their own way. Because that's how the society works. To prosper, your superior must prosper. He found his patron in Augustus, so the low colors find their own patron in Darrow, and it breeds this loyalty of necessity to golds that the color system itself can't create by mere dictation. So, as his star rises, everybody else is on his ship or in his fleet, really at the academy, will rise with it. And I mean, but that's still the low colors. That's still the low colors. That's not, that you still have your lieutenants who are maybe not your equals in terms of, you're the boss by like one step, right? Like, they're your assistant directors and you're the director. They're the assistant managers to the manager, or whatever they call Dwight in the office.
Isn't he the assistant to the assistant manager?
Yeah.
It's it's odd because I think in a bigger way though that like it goes back to like him being like I don't think he really believes that. I think like Darrow's whole thing as a character, the whole point of Darrow's story from book 1 has been the system is broken, right? So
Mhm.
like he sees that this is what the system is supposed to do, and that's what he was trying to do, and included in having his lieutenants be there to witness the victory and therefore take part. But when it comes down to it, he doesn't believe in the system, he doesn't believe in the society as a construct, and he doesn't believe it's effective. So he doesn't believe that this is a shared victory, he believes it is his victory as much. And like all of this monologuing, I was just like, boy, you're trying to convince yourself, you don't believe in any of this.
Darrow does a lot of that, trying to convince himself of one thing or another, which
Oh yeah, no. Like don't get me wrong, I think he's a very interesting protagonist, but I do not like him because all of book 1 is just him and having like his own like little murder party. Like it's very funny actually because like I read book 1 a very long time ago and I had forgotten how absurdly violent it is.
mm,
And I came back and I was just like, "Hey bud, can we take a chill pill?" "No? Okay. Okay, bud."
yeah, yeah. This series is not for the faint of heart. As they say, don't be a pixie.
No, thank you. I'm going to go be a pixie. Goodbye. No
So
stars
I
for
do
me.
have one thing that has baffled me about this whole thing. How is Karnas running a fleet at the academy? Hasn't he graduated at this point? I always thought that was a little weird, and I don't think it was explained very well. Or did I miss it?
No, it took me a couple rereads to kind of piece it together. There are comments about how his mother, Cassius and his mother basically was like, "Go to the academy and beat Darrow for me." Um, but
No, that part I get, but hasn't he already
right,
graduated from it already?
no, no.
No,
So
the
like,
academy like isn't a voluntary thing or like a required thing. It's like a if you want to go to the academy, you can go to the academy. And
yeah,
he just never had gone.
yeah,
Oh, so it's not a next step for all Peerless Golds that you go to the.
no,
No, because you also hear about how like Mustang isn't at the academy. Like
yeah.
the
She's
Jackal.
going to poli sci school.
Yeah, Mustang's at Poli Sci School. Jackal is at,
Okay.
here's my weird tech underground
He's
All
school.
right.
getting a he's getting a he's oh gosh, no, not even tech. He is getting a master's in business administration.
Oh my god. Help. Help. I see no lie.
So, um, after they escape the ship, which by the way, this is not violent because when their ship gets rammed, a whole fuck ton of people die. I mean, there's the first thing that happens is that Darrow is saying like he sees a blue just like splattered across the computer consoles, whatever they're called. Um, and then
Everything is
as yeah, and then Tactus, fucking Tactus, like him and Victora and Roke get in the escape pod, and in the like couple moments that Darrow is unconscious because he tried to save Theodora, Tactus is like, boop, bye forever, bitch. Because Tactus is as Tactus does too. And then Darrow has to like throw poor Theodora with her just like crushed leg, BT dubs. Like, this would be no, I mean, this would be like if when you broke your elbow in New Orleans, I just threw you over my shoulder and started running around the French Quarter with you.
It's funny. It's funny you say that. Years ago, I got injured playing basketball, and the referee was an ex Division One player who was like 6'10", and he saw how badly I got hurt, and he immediately like picked me up like I was luggage and just like took me to my car like I was a child. And I was not a child. I was an adult at that point. But he was like Charlie Thomas was like 6'10" and 240.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yeah, I
god.
mean, and
The
like,
luggage carry is not cozy. I do not know why people do it.
no, no. And um, and then as Darrow is rushing through the ship, to trying to get to his quarters, to his little escape pod, he actually has to have Greys help him because people are trying to stop him. You know, they're like, "What do we do, Dominus?" Which also, ugh, I hate they call them Dominus. Like, I know why. I know it's part of the society. Listen, I'm gonna hate it forever. But, uh,
Like, dislike.
yeah, but you know, they get these Greys to help them, and then they get there, and there's this whole argument over who's actually gonna go in the escape pod, and they're just like, Theodora's a slave, she shouldn't get a spot," and Daryl's like, "Fuck you, man, she's my slave." And I know, like, in his head, he's thinking he's kind of disgusted that he has to, like, say it that way, but he knows that's the only way it's gonna get through to them. And then in the end, like, one of the Greys just, like, shoots a couple of like, he shoots at least one of them down, cold blood, and then they pull straws after
Well, no,
that.
no, 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 that's not what happened because one of the Greys like draws the gun on Darrow.
And then the
Does
other
he?
Gray shoots him.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other Grey's like, "Dude, fuck no," and he shoots him, and that's how it goes down.
Okay. For some reason, I remembered it differently. I remembered like the Greys were just fighting with Darrow and with each other, and the commander or whatever he was just like popped one of them off, and then was like, "Okay, now we draw straws." But it was sad. Like it these might not have been good people, these Greys, but it's still like, ugh. And the one that gets left behind just like salutes them as they go. And probably that one should have been the one that got on the shuttle because I'm pretty sure the one that got left behind was one of the better ones out of the crew of miscreant Greys here.
The
But
first 3 minutes of knowing him, I definitely disliked him the least because
yes,
it seemed like
exactly.
defensive.
He's the least frustrating of the frustrating characters in this particular scene. But then, like, so they get back to the academy, and Roke is trying to make Darrow feel better, like assuage his guilt, I guess. But he's so bad at it because he's such a gold, and it's one of those moments where you Roke has always kind of been pictured both in because you're seeing him from Darrow's perspective too, but he's always been pictured as this gentle, kind soul. But then when Darrow is like 833 people died or something, Roke is like, I mean, they chose lives of service. They knew the danger. They died for a cause. And Darrow's like, what the fuck cause? It was a game. I mean, that's not exactly what he says. I'm strongly paraphrasing here, but that's like when Darrow says what cause, in my brain, he was saying, what the fuck cause? This was a game. They died. It's like if I was playing Red Dead Redemption, but in real life, right? And like we all actually go around shooting each other with real guns. Okay. It's a fucking video game. And that's what it's supposed to be, but people actually died here. And Roke says it's like the cause is to keep their society strong. So playing at war is keeping their society strong. And this is kind of the first moment when Darrow is like, how could like this is Roke. He's very kind, but he is so blind, pardon the rhyme. And they didn't have a choice, these people. They were conscripted. And, you know,
So, that Darrow says they were conscripted. I mean, I assume a lot of them were, but I assume others were not,
oh,
right? I mean,
they absolutely were. I mean, the thing is, they're conscripted automatically because they're all stuck within their color, within their caste, right?
yes,
So
yeah, but hypothetically, you can be, we as we saw many Greys. There are many Greys. Some are just guards at a in the mines. Others are Green
there's
Berets, essentially. I mean, there's different levels of them. So I assume they have some choice within their. I've always assumed that they had some choice within their color for the most part, if you weren't a red. And
I mean, I still think there's a difference between some choice, but is it really a choice if all the choices
yeah.
suck?
Well, and two, like think about the grays and the blues are, I think, really good examples of this because with the grays, sure, some of them just get to work in the mines, but that's considered like a trash job, right?
no, I
That's
know.
like
That's what I'm saying. The Green Berets are the high end ones, right?
right. So if you are a talented person, you get you still have you still have to be you still have to be a guard or a soldier or whatever. If you're a blue, you're going to be piloting a ship no matter what.
Right, but is
So
it
if
a
you're
warship or is
talented,
it a civilian transport
well,
for
right. And so if you're talented, you're kind of fucked, right? Like if you're talented, I mean, maybe not. I don't even, yeah, I don't even know, because it depends, I guess, on what, how much you're worried about dying. Because
right?
if you're talented, you're not going to be piloting a civilian ship or a merchant ship. You're going to be piloting something in the academy, or if you're even more talented, you're going to be piloting an actual major warship. So yeah, it is
Well,
conscripted because
but
they
like
don't have a choice about what their job is, period. And they really, I don't even think they really have a choice where they go, because if you're super fucking good, the society isn't going to let you just be piloting a merchant ship somewhere.
also like regardless, I kind of viewed it as like kind of like a war draft. Like they're constantly doing war shit. Like it doesn't matter. Like yeah, maybe like a handful will sign up voluntarily because they're like, fuck yeah, I want to do war shit. But the majority of people are the people who are, if they're signing up voluntarily, it's the fake voluntary sign up that we have for our army, which is like, oh, we'll pay for your education because you have no other choice and now you're our slave for 10 years. Like it's that kind of stuff. Like it's not a
Yeah.
real choice. It's the illusion of choice just enough to keep people content.
Mm. Yeah, well, and as we see, not really all of them are all that content.
Yeah. And I think my other thing, oh, the other thing I wanted to say, like me personally, like I always was kind of sus at Roke, like even in book one, like he would keep saying like very sort of like off-brand things every now and then. And like I remember I don't remember any specifics about it, but like even in book one, you get the vague sense that like, yes, he's like one of the kindest of them, but he's still one of them.
Mhm.
And I like, to me, like hearing him be this blunt about it, it was definitely one of those like, yep, he's definitely coming out and saying it now. But I was like, yeah, no, I've kind of always seen this coming because he's always like, he always looked kinder and looked chiller, but he never actually was, if that makes sense.
No, it makes
Well,
it.
and even in this particular exchange, when Darrow was like, "You don't understand," Roke tries to, he kind of gaslights Darrow a little bit. Like,
I mean,
of course I don't understand. You never let anyone in. Not me, not Severo. Look how you treat a Mustang. You drive friends away as though they were enemies. And it's like,
is it gaslighting if it's true though? Because
I
blood
mean,
does.
I think in this particular instance, it's gaslighting, because what the fuck does that have to do with the fact that 800 plus low colors just died for a game? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I'm not saying that Roke is a good person, but I'm just saying that he never wasn't what he said he was on the tin. You know?
hmm.
I'm pretty sure the only gold we've seen that seems to have a heart is like Leah, who's dead, and Mustang, who's like fucking off right now. Like, and even
Maybe
then,
I think Quinn too, but we haven't
maybe
seen her
I
much
don't
in this
really
book yet.
remember. I truly don't remember many details about Quinn's personality. I just remember they're like, Quinn, run fast. And I was like,
Also
okay.
Pax.
I
Also
don't know
Pax.
that Pax has the advanced reasoning capabilities to be more than that. Although he got into the academy, so like he must be. But
You mean the
also,
Institute?
uh, wow, the
Yeah,
I
I know. The fact that they're the Institute and the Academy, it's hard to not find them interchangeable. But
but
yes,
yeah, no, I like, like Roke never was anything except what he said he was on the tin, and like in this particular case, like he is right. Like Darrow never let him in, like so of course he won't understand. Like to him, like these people, like they're not raised to view like low colors as people, and so as much as I'm like, ew, disgusting, terrible person, I'm also like, you're a product of the way that you're raised, and so that makes a lot of sense for him. I still don't like him because that's a shit point of view to have, despite your being raised that way. But he is right because Dara hasn't let him in. I don't know that
uh,
Dara should let him in though, because I think he might be a cold-hearted bitch. But that's a separate issue.
well, and so then like Darrow, he separates himself from his friends because, as we all know, obviously it goes super well for Darrow every time he walks away from his friends to go do something by himself. And
Yup.
I'm gonna go soak in the hot springs. And then he gets attacked by 7 Bologna. And Also, it's like, dude, Cardis, come the fuck on. Why you gotta beat a dude? And also, first of all, why are you this awful, Cardis? And the rest of them, Cagney is one of the other ones that's with him. Like, they're all fucking awful, but the two of them seem like the worst in that little group shebang over here. And then like it's like, why are you doing this? You're so awful. But also, how is this allowed? Like, how are there not like, I get why there's not like, I would say I get why there's not security cameras because like you're gonna be bathing in the hot springs, whatever. But also the fact that they were just like, yeah, it's totally cool if we beat you within an inch of your life and piss on you in this fucking technically public place. Just what?
I mean, we've clearly established that Gold Society is whack. So
Well, I guess there's still part of me. I agree, but there's still part of me that's like, what they allowed in the institute was one thing, and this isn't the institute anymore. At this point, they've graduated. They are either peerless scarred or they're not. And
Yeah, but I don't think it's a case of allow or not allow. I think it's something that just happened, and at once you've left the quote protection of the institute, such that it was, as in they view this as you're adults and peerless scarred, and you'll do what you do, and there are certain rules of the society that about honor, and if Darrow's a man, he'd then challenge Karnas to a duel, and they'd fight it out with razors, right? I don't think society gets in the way or involved. It's sort of a dog eat dog world.
I also, like, frankly, this doesn't surprise me. Like, considering what all the untested kids did in the Institute, like, what does that breed? It breeds savagery. Like,
yeah.
you can't put people through something like that and basically tell them they're allowed to do whatever the fuck they want to people in the name of victory and not expect them to continue that mindset. And that's also the purpose of the institute. Like they're just living up to what they were taught. And frankly, like, with the exception of Karnas, because I do think Karnas is like a different level of psychopathic monster, because he is the one that sort of, as we know it, started the conflict with the Augustus family by killing their oldest son. But like, with the exception of him, the rest of them, they're all acting in defense. Like, to them, this is like righteous rage. Like, this is the monster that killed.
Except it's so fucking hypocritical because every single one of them, if they graduated from the institute, they had to kill somebody too.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hypocritical as fuck.
Yeah, but that
because,
was
like,
self-defense, Tara.
yes, exactly.
It's totally different. That's not killing someone in
Tara,
cold blood.
I think you're doing this thing where you're trying to apply normal morals to a group of people that have been shown to clearly be hypocritical and amoral. And
no, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to, like, listen, I get it, right? I'm just trying to make a point. I'm trying to make the point that the Bolognas are hypocritical as fuck. Like,
oh yeah, no, all the golds are golds. Period. Golds equal hypocrites.
Except for maybe Severo.
I just think Severo is vibing. He is just experiencing the internet. He is finding cool memes to send to Darrow. I really, really enjoy this little dude. I hope he gets.
You say cool memes, but if you read it carefully enough, it's unicorn porn. Like...
Yes, I did catch that. I did.
Oh,
listen, are you really friends unless you send somebody unicorn porn?
I mean, do you really want to start that here? Next time on
what
Sagas
am I missing?
Sass.
No one has ever sent me unicorn porn.
Yeah, next time on Sagas and Sass, we all rate the unicorn porn that we sent each other.
Yeah, no, please no. I do not want unicorn porn.
No, I
have
don't
not
either.
sent unicorn porn. But no, Servo is clearly thriving, and I love that for him because I'm pretty sure he's the only one I actually like.
So before we move on to the next set of chapters, one thing I wanted to talk about was the peeing on people, because obviously we saw that in book 1, and like,
hey, I think they're just obsessed with it because it's gold like them.
Oh my god. I mean, the thing is, like, animals animals use urine for two things: marking their territory and sex, right? Like cats, when
Mhm.
cats spray, it's like hi, I'm here for you sort of thing. Um Lobsters, female lobsters pee on the quote unquote doorsteps of male lobsters' little underwater homes to get their attention, because male lobsters are always like clack 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 at each other and like murdering each other all the time for no good reason. So female lobsters are like, I need to mate. I'm gonna pee on your doorstep. Like, it's very,
Oh, I figured it out. Carnus has been flirting this whole time.
yeah. And Titus was flirting with Cassius. I don't know. It's just this.
Correct.
I get the like marking your territory thing, but that said, animals do not pee on other animals on purpose, at least not in my experience. Like, sure, my male dog will mark his territory, but he's not peeing on Ellie's head all the time. Like, I had we had two cats, I'm talking like a decade ago, who fucking hated each other. One was a girl cat, one was a boy cat. They were both fixed, but they fucking hated each other. And despite the fact that we lived in like a 3,200 square foot house and had about 8 litter boxes all across the house to try to like keep the cats from doing the thing, the female cat and the male cat would pee on furniture, would like fight pee, like, but never on each other, right? Yeah, it was
Fight
the
me!
fucking worst. It was the fucking worst. Like,
Fight
I don't know which
me!
one started it. I don't know, whatever, but like one of them, we had this hutch in our game room, and that one got the worst. Like, I had to throw it away about 2 years after we moved into the house because the two of them kept peeing on it. It had originally stored DVDs in it, and we had to move all the DVDs off the bottom 2 shelves because of these fucking cats. But they never peed on each other. So it's just like, what the fuck is with this society? And like, we're gonna debase you by urinating on you? Like, wow, guys, you're so hoity-toity. You're so high society. So good. Congratulations. Now, moving on to chapters 4 through 7. So, Darrow has been humiliated by the Bologna, but his trials are far from over, because between his loss at the academy and, the whole getting peed on thing, Augustus is ready to offload his contract. Not only will this surely cause problems for Darrow professionally, it also means he loses Augustus's protection, which will surely lead to the Bolognas actually killing him the next time they come around. Obviously, Augustus doesn't care about any of this, and it probably doesn't help that his politico, Pliny, is there poking at Darrow and just generally making things worse for him all around. No matter what Darrow says, Augustus has made up his mind, and the contract will be terminated in 3 days, at which time it will go up for auction.
While many of his fellow Lancers take bets on how long Darrow will last once Augustus cuts him free, Rogue insists that he won't be abandoned. Meanwhile, Victress seems to have some sort of plan to help him out, though it does involve leaving the safety of the Citadel grounds for a little field trip to Lost City, where Victra leaves him with her contract, who appears to be, wait for it, the Jackal.
And the Jackal, being well himself, he quickly lays it all bare for Darrow, basically right away. It turns out that he's pulled a Disney-esque move, buying up a big chunk of the communications industry, and on top of that, he's become all buddy-buddy with a crime syndicate. And while getting rid of Pliny is the bait he dangles in front of Darrow, his true end goal is to take down the Sons of Ares. I think he's more Elon Musk than Disney, but that's all right.
Oh my god, he's Elon Musk.
I honestly wrote this. I wrote this before. I wrote this before the
Oh
Twitter
my
thing went
god.
through. So,
Oh my god, I can totally imagine Adrius just like
using daddy's money.
being a little dickhead on Twitter using daddy's money and having weird fanboys who are like, oh my god, we love the Jackal. The Jackal's so good at everything. How dare you think he's only successful because of daddy's money? The Jackal is obviously really good at things. Did you hear he cut off his own hand that one time? Wow.
Which is something golds like aren't
Oh
supposed to do, but
my god.
now
Oh
that the
my
Jackal
god.
did it, it's cool.
He's
So,
on Mars.
so why are you imitating a 1980s San Fernando Valley girl? talking about
I
Adrias.
don't know. For some reason, that's like my fangirl but derogatory voice.
Much more San Fernando Valley than fangirl. I don't think.
Um, well, anyway, so going back to the things at hand, uh, the beginning of this section, I always have a chuckle at how how bad Darrow is at politics, but he absolutely recognizes it, and that amuses me. Like, it's the way he thinks about it is sad because he says, my tenure in the archgovernor's employ is tenuous at best. My enemies grow by the day, but these new ones prefer whispers to razors. More and more do I believe the sons of Ares chose the wrong man. I am not made for the cold whir of politics, not made for subtlety. Hell, I'd hire a Hell, I'd hide a boy in the gut of a horse any day, but I wouldn't know how to bribe someone properly if my life depended on it.
He's
So,
not wrong.
no, no. I mean, and he really has sucked at this. Like, it is so clear in that whole chapter, which is like actually compared to the other chapters, just in these books in general, is one of the longer ones. Like, it goes on and on with like him and Pliny and Augustus going back and forth, but it's mostly Pliny. I mean, at times Pliny is like, why are you always on the news, Darrow? And Darrow's over here just like, what the fuck? What? What do you mean I'm on the news? I'm not on the news. Why are you always watching these things on your holopad? And Darrow's like, I'm not watching things of myself on the holopad. Like, what do you? And it's like, it's all just Pliny, just like making shit up. Like, we see your browsing history, Darrow. We see that you just watch unicorn porn and hollows of yourself.
Darrow, we know your friend sends you unicorn porn, okay? Like, just admit it. Admit you like it.
I find it funny that they're obviously tracking the shit that he does on his like data pad,
And they
but they
don't
don't
bring up
mention the
unicorn
unicorn.
porn. That is a bit maybe even Pliny's like, I know this is a thing that is realistically happening, but I feel like if I bring this up, it'll make the rest of my lies sound fake.
Yeah, Pliny is a little bitch, so he probably like if he brought that up, Augustus might be like, Pliny, we know what you do in your free time, so
I feel more like it would be like Augustus would be like, "Hey, Pliny, like unicorn porn isn't even real, okay? Like, calm down and stop making shit up." And Pliny will be like, "No, but it's right here." And then Augustus will be like, "Pliny, so you like unicorn porn? Like, is that's what's happening?" I I wish I had more insight than Pliny likes unicorn porn, but I think that's what I'm going with.
I mean, my biggest insight is Pliny is a dick, and that's that. I
That
mean,
too.
period. He's the worst. Uh okay, maybe not the worst in this entire series, but he's fucking up there. Like, he is a devious little shit. I will say this though, we do get a really good uh paragraph. We do get some really good insight from him on Red Society. And granted, some of this was probably, I don't want to say obvious, but if you read even just a little bit between the lines in book one, you could absolutely see some of these things. But he like straight up says, you're forgetting we designed red culture to be highly patriarchal. Their identity as people centers around the collection of resources to propagate the embryonic terraforming of Mars. Physically strenuous, grueling tasks performed by men. Tasks we don't let their women perform, even if they are capable, pursuant to the stratification protocol. So you see, it can't be a woman. He's talking about how Ares can't be a woman because no roughneck ruster would follow a man or a woman who has never ridden a claw drill. And some of this is just like, hey, you little dick. You're literally talking to a dude who used to ride a claw drill. But also, I mean,
You're talking to a heckin' hell diver. Chill your pants.
Yeah,
but also, that's a lot
but,
of
but
good
in some
insight.
ways he was. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dara.
I was just say, I mean, but also that's a lot of very specific insight that it's a really great I don't want to say it's a show don't tell moment because that's not entirely true, right? But it was a way for Pierce Brown to tell us uh more about the ins and outs of how Red Society was designed without having it just be like, and in Red Society, we are a patriarchal society. You know what I mean? Like they're having a conversation about the Sons of Ares and why Ares can't be a woman. And in that conversation, the author is able to insert,
It's natural. It's not like it's
yes.
not one of those weird. And let me pause for some
Mhm.
exposition. Let me
Mhm.
detail my plan to you while I laugh maniacally in the corner. It's like no, like this makes sense for the way this conversation to go, and it gives us information in a way that feels natural and isn't like a like info dump. Like it is an info dump, but it's an info dump in the sense that it makes sense for this character because this character seems like the type of dude who'd be like, actually, no, I'm smarter than you for this, this, and this. So like, shut up, okay, because I am smarter than you. And like, I'm gonna be real. I don't think I hate Plenty as much as you do, but I'm sure that may change in time. But like, mostly because I'm just like, at least I respect this dude for going about and trying to like be like politically manipulative instead of like murderously manipulative.
Well, I also thought in some ways this was sort of a backhand, but real compliment to what he considers the best of Red Society. That it has to be he's sort of stating that it has to be someone who was a who would drive a quadrille would have the guts and the capabilities to be the son of Ares.
It's
That
funny
he,
because it's almost like he's saying the Reds are sexist, but lol, it's because we made them that way. Like,
Pliny designs a sexist category. Sorry, Pliny designs a sexist society. Pliny turns around 2 minutes later. Wow, they're so sexist.
exactly. And I will just say, like, I just finished reading this book called The Naming by Alison Croggan, I think is her name. And it's a series. It's like the Pellinor series or something like that. I liked the book okay, but the biggest problem with that book was, and I actually stopped reading it halfway through to continue reading more Red Rising because I was just kind of exhausted with it, was it's basically like a Lord of the Rings style travel log where this dude is spending the entire trip schooling this young girl on their world. And it's like it's the exact opposite of this, right? None of it is natural. It's like, oh, it's time for me to teach you more things about how things work. Here is a long description of how things work. And it's like going from that to this, it just really brought this out for me as to how good it was that it was part of the conversation this way and not, just an info, just a generic info dump.
See, I was amused for another reason. My amusement came from the fact of like this is a sexist society that is built on rules that kind of make sense in that like the golds when they designed this they were like, ah, yes, so the reason the guys are the only claw people is because the guys are stronger. And like while it's like, yeah, bullshit, but like also like there's like a real rule that kind of makes sense. And I've been reading a lot of Stormlight, and my favorite right now about Stormlight is that everybody who isn't Alethi likes to point out how like Alethi traditions are kind of whack, and they're like, the division between the sexes here makes no logical sense. And like so like the whole thing in Stormlight is that like this one group of people, they like the women are scholars and the men are not allowed to read because that is considered womanly, and the men only fight and they only fight because that is the manly thing to do.
Hmm.
And like literally the whole society is built on like a scribe following around every important dude so whenever he gets a letter she can read it
Yep.
to him. And it's really really funny because not only is it absolutely illogical and hilarious and arbitrary, but also everybody who isn't from this group of people is just like, are they whack? Like, isn't that whack? Like, why do they do this? And it's very funny to me because at first, like, when I started reading, I was like, ew, I hate division between the sexes. Like, this is so weird. And then as time went on, I was just like, this is incredibly funny because it just
Hmm.
likes to poke fun at how hilarious it is when, like, shit is just arbitrarily decided as, like, not manly. Like, it's not manly to read. Like, I was like, okay, bud.
Well, and speaking of speaking of women, um, and more so in this case, strong women, Darrow, after he gets kind of his cut off from Augustus, he is thinking about Mustang and their like last days together because they were, hot and bothered for each other for a while after the Institute. And at one point, Mustang tried to convince Darrow to stay with her rather than going to the academy to, in her words, be her father's warlord. And she said, or she insisted, "That's not what you are. That's not the man that I." But she didn't finish her sentence, and Darrow thinks, "Love, was that what we built in the year after the Institute?" Now, this also harkens back to the conversations he's already had with Roke because he thinks if so, the words stuck in her throat because she knew, as I knew, that I had not given her all of me. I had not shared all that I am. Greedily, I kept secrets. And how could someone like her, someone with so much self worth, bare herself and throw her heart at a man who gave so little in return? But he doesn't fault her. She chose politics, governance, peace, which is what she thinks her people need. And he chose the blade because it is what his people, his real people, the reds, the low colors need. And he thinks like it, or he says it fills him with a strange emptiness, knowing that he was enough for her when he was never enough for Io. And he kind of comes to the conclusion that Roke was right, which Roke, but Roke was right. He pushed Mustang away. And we don't really see Mustang at all, hardly, in part one of this book. But whenever Darrow thinks of her, it's always in just the most like he's in love. Like it's in the most positive terms. Like we broke up, but I still love her so much. She
Guys, I
loved me for what I was. Io didn't even do that, and she was my wife.
think he has a crush
Yeah, a little bit.
a little bit.
I also love how her and Roke apparently used to like go to the opera or ballets or both or what. Like they went and did artsy stuff together because Jared was like, "Oh, that shit." Like, have fun, guys. I don't want it. But then contrasting with that, we go back to after Darrow meets with Augustus, and he's kind of in this mode of like, what do I do? I'm going to die. Blah blah blah. He has this little tete-a-tete with Victra, and he's wary of Victra because he thinks she always wants something, and he compares her to her shitty sister, Antonia. Yeah, remember Antonia, the bitch who killed Leah in book one, who was just a duplicitous piece of shit in all of book one. Antonia was the jackal at least was like, yeah, sure, whatever. They're buying my way through the Institute. Whatever. Gotta win, right? And Antonia's just over here just like playing all the sides, just being the worst, like going back on her own house and stuff. Ugh. But so far Victor seems really great. And I felt kind of bad for her a lot that Darrow was constantly like, oh, I don't know. She always wants something. She's gonna use me. And poor Victor's just like, ugh, Antonia always ruins things. Like
It's really funny. Like a part of me, like I absolutely agree, but a bigger part of me is like I need to wait and see if Victor betrays him, and then I'm like, shit, I'm thinking like Darrow. You're doing it too.
I liked Victor from the moment I met her. And granted, yes, I have read all of these books and I've read the first four. I have not, I've only read Dark Age once, but I've read the first four, the first three, like 4 or 5 times each. And I've read Iron Gold 2 or 3 times. But like, regardless, like, Victra had like from the moment we met her stood out to me, and I just never wanted to believe that she and also I never wanted to believe that she was anything like her sister, but also I think that her she's very consistent, right? Like she might not be a good person, but she is very consistent, and she's also so totes like into Darrow. that
Well, yeah,
she's
I think the stuff that happens next, like, really, like, sells me on her. But at the beginning, like, I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, she is also like, my sisters are the worst. I'm not gonna do anything wrong to you, but and again, super not fair that she is saddled with her sister's moral baggage. But
Or
she
her
does,
mother's for that matter.
yeah. But she does then bring Darrow to the jackal of all people, which is definitely like a side eye moment. Like, Victor, why are
Well,
you doing anything with this guy?
well, so in the defense of the jackal, which you know is hard, he is a
This is a Jonathan Devil's Advocate moment. I
no,
feel like
no,
coming.
no. Well, and in defense of Victor, both Victor and the jackal, in many ways, are similar in that they are transactional people, and that they will have allies for convenience. And I wouldn't say that in Victor's case she would betray those allies, but she will cut ties to those allies once it's no longer convenient. She's willing to um,
No
be on the
spoilers.
gray areas of right and wrong to get to her own goals. And I think the jackal does that to an even higher level.
Yeah, I mean, when Darrow meets with him, it is kind of funny because during their conversation, he literally brings up gold hypocrisy, which I thought of all people, it was a really great turn for him to be the one who's like, these fucking hypocrites, they despise me because I ate students. But it's such hypocrisy. What else was I to do? We're told to win, and I did my best. And then they
And there was no other
criticize.
food.
Yeah, and then they criticize, act noble as though they didn't commit murder themselves. Madness. Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure that they did straight up murder a student and start eating that student. They didn't. It was like, yes, there was no other food, but they're like, who's the weakest? Like, not somebody who was necessarily sick or injured or anything. They're like, who's the weakest? Who can we kill and eat so that we survive? Which, I mean, like, cool story, bro. Still cannibalism.
Well, you're
It's,
not going to eat
it's
the strongest because he can fight back and maybe eat you.
well, it's funny too because, like, in a way, like, though, he's so right. Like, his level of, like, willingness to do whatever to win is exactly what Gold Society wants. And he's
Mhm.
like, and then they turn around and they pretend to have morals about it, and then they're suddenly like, oh no, this is the line, you went too far. Oh no,
Cough, cough,
suddenly this is
Bolognas.
the line, you go too far. Like he's absolutely right. I hate it. I do hate the jackal. I think he's a fucking psychopath. But, like,
But
in a way, he's like the most on the same level as Darrow right now in regards to, like, seeing the hypocrisy, which
well,
is
I'm going
funny.
to take a step back. Who said he went too far? No, none of the proctors thought he went too far.
Oh no,
Oh,
they only
they
thought he
did.
went. No, they only thought he went too far when he lost.
Right,
That's
exact. That's my point. Right,
like, if he had won,
they
it
wouldn't
would
have
have been
thought
okay.
that.
But
Oh,
he
I
lost.
think no, actually, I disagree. I think the proctors thought he went too far. The difference was they weren't ever going to say shit about it if he had won.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole point. That is the hypocrisy, though.
Yeah, yeah,
The hypocrisy is that he had gone too far. Everybody thought it, but they thought that because he was going to win, that it was okay,
yeah.
which is even more whack than the initial hypocrisy that he points out, which is also whack. It's all whack.
Yeah,
Me, Gold
the
Society is whack.
and the fact that the fact that the jackal has allied himself with a bunch of low colors because they hate the sovereign, and he's like kind of, and also allied himself with like this crime syndicate, and in the end they're just a piece of his puzzle, and one he's only going to try to put in power so that they can kill off the real menace, which is, in
Dun
his
dun
words,
dun.
dun dun dun, the sons of Ares. So that's a bit of a cliffhanger, but no worries because we still have chapters 8 to 11 to talk about.
So, yep, the Jackal believes that the Sons of Ares are on their way to becoming a dire threat to the society, and he needs to do something about it. But he needs a figurehead for his movement, and why, of course, he wants that to be Darrow. And he doesn't even care that Darrow is a laughingstock. Granted, it would be entirely hypocritical for Jackal of all people to care about that. So Darrow agrees to be the sword to the Jackal's scepter, but only on the condition that Mustang can't be hurt. Oh, and that gets Servo and the rest of the Howlers back from their far reaches where they were apparently sent by Pliny to split them up from Darrow. But before more plans can be hatched, they are interrupted by a pink. And not just any pink, it's Evie, the wing girl that he met at Mickey's club back when he was still a red. Except, like, Evie no longer has wings. Good for her, I think. I don't think she liked those. The Jackal insists that Evie takes Darrow off to show him a good time, and conveniently, this also allows her to save Darrow from the bomb that she had planted under the Jackal's table. But Darrow slips away from her, and as the AC screens throughout the bar show many other bombings occurring all over Luna, Darrow drives in and saves the Jackal? What? Well, okay. But now Darrow has also grabbed a datapad from one of the Reds who was with Evie, and he uses it to track down their hideout, where he finds not just her, but Mickey as well. Mickey of, hello, Mr. Red. I am purple, and now I make you gold. Darrow chastises Evie for the bombing, which killed a bar full of low colors, and attempts to question Mickey, who Darrow notes seems tired and vulnerable, even before it becomes clear that Mickey isn't there by choice. And then, when Darrow demands to know where Dancer is and to know who is in charge, out steps another blast from the past. Oh, bomb pun. Ugh. It's Harmony. She tells him that Dancer is dead and that Mickey is carving them a mini army so that they can strike back at Gold. Oh, and now that Darrow is back, she obviously wants his help too, specifically with bombing the gala he is slated to attend. Darrow tries to refuse, but Harmony presses him, eventually revealing that she has the full recording of Ao's death. And it reveals that her last words to her sister her last words to her sister Dio. She told her sister to hide the crib that she was building for her and Darrow's baby.
Because yes, Io was pregnant. Ah, and I lost the screen. Eva was pregnant when she was hanged, and in hearing this, something in Darrow breaks, and then he has a different kind of Red Rising moment when it's anger that takes over, at which point he agrees to do whatever Ares wants. After touching base with the Jackal, he returns to the Citadel, where he spends his days locked in a haze trying to forget his babe. What? Too soon? No, but really. Darrow does spend the days leading up to the gala withdrawing from his gold friends, while Augustus is made to answer for how the heckety heck the Sons of Ares spread from Mars to Luna. As the gala and his impending bombing draw ever closer, he wonders if he can sacrifice Roke for all people, and it is only when Darrow's valet Theodora spills wine all over his white gala suit and he doesn't know how to respond to her obvious worry and concern that he realizes no, he can't sacrifice Rook, his much warmer friend, who would have had the proper reaction to this situation. And so Darrow pays Rook a visit just before they are supposed to leave, and after a very moving conversation between the two of them, including Rook admitting that he was going to try to buy Darrow's contract, Darrow drugs his friend to keep him from attending the gala. It's a betrayal, of course, but one that Darrow believes will keep Rook safe, even though by doing this, it means that even if he does survive the bombing himself, everyone will know who done it.
However, from the moment they arrive for the gala, things are already out of whack. First, the Augustus troop is forced to gasp, share a lift with another family, the Faults. And then on top of that, they're told they have to leave their obsidian and gray guards behind. No one is happy about any of this, but Augustus points out that they don't have a choice but to attend, and so up they go to the roof of the Sovereign's Tower. Once there, Darrow is first accosted by Antonia, who he brushes off with a rude comeback courtesy of their former House Mars Proctor, Fitchner. Sorry, guys. Coughing. Once there, Darrow is first accosted by Antonia, who he brushes off with a rude comeback courtesy of their former house Mars Proctor Fitchner, which, by the way, involves something about Antonia having chlamydia. And then, oddly enough, Darrow decides to slide up to Carnus O. Bellona. You know, the very man who beat him at the academy, both in the final test and literally. Yet in this moment, even nasty Carnus is, well, not friendly, but he apparently knows better than to pick another fight right now. Instead, he merely draws Darrow's attention to the arrival of someone important. Guys, it's Mustang. And she's escorted by none other than Cassius in more ways than one. Darrow is understandably upset, but he also knows Mustang isn't the type to be with his enemy out of sheer spite. And so he stalks out of the gala, taking a lift down to a forested area where he can be alone with his intrusive thoughts. Yeah, so dramatic, right? In this case, though, those thoughts actually help him because he realizes, fucking finally, yeesh, that bombing the gala is wrong, isn't what Io would have wanted. Instead, he decides to shake things up in his own way by inciting something that terrifies the Golds more than anything else. Darrow, you see, is going to start a civil war. So I want to start this discussion by reading a quote regarding Darrow's thoughts on Evie once he meets back up with her after the bombing. Because he says, despite her giggling, she's all sensuality and beauty, with willowy arms and a slow, intimate smile that echoes none of the grief killing nearly 200 people should mark her with. The winged girl has become a carrion bird, and she doesn't seem to have noticed. I wonder if she'd smile so broadly if she had to kill all those people with a knife. How easy we make mass murder.
What a heckin' mood. That moment when it's a little bit too real.
Yeah, especially, not that shootings and stuff weren't common in the United States, too common in this country before this book was published in 2015, but yeah, lot easier to pull a mass murder when you're not thinking about the people you're killing because it's just a bomb or a semi-automatic rifle versus having to actually stab people with a knife. So,
yep.
And apparently we learned very quickly that Harmony kidnapped Mickey to carve them an army. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of it's amusing to both me and Darrow that she thinks that 100 carved soldiers can cut gold deeper than ever before, like lol sigh.
It's like she's so far out of her depth, she has no idea. And it's just it's just very sad in a pathetic way.
Oh, especially when, Darrow is like, my howlers were just the dregs of the Institute, not even the deadliest of golds. Mm-hmm. And even they could shred any 100-person unit that these terrorists put together.
Mm-hmm. I think he's underselling his howlers. I mean, they were trained much better than the other golds at the Institute by Severo. They have far more deadly skills than most. Maybe in hand-to-hand combat that wouldn't necessarily be the case, one-on-one, hand-to-hand. But if you're talking basically hit-and-run tactics,
well, it doesn't. I don't know that that's really what he's talking about, though. Because, regardless of how the Howlers were successful, because they were successful because they worked to their own strengths, which were not common gold strengths. Because the common gold strengths are, hello, we have these funky snake swords, and we can and will effectively stab you with them because we are taller than you, faster than you, stronger than you. And I think that's the point he's trying to make. Even the Howlers are weak by traditional gold standards. They make do because they learned to work around that, and then they trained to work around that, which makes them highly effective and good. But the Howlers are the exception. They're the unskilled people compared to the majority of golds, because the majority of golds, they're just naturally good at war. It's just their pocket skill.
No,
Well, I think
well,
like
no, it's the majority of golds went to the institute, because remember,
Yeah.
most golds don't go. So
well,
Yeah,
I
but
think too that like the howlers might be unskilled in like the fancy fighting shit, like the razor and cravat. That doesn't mean they are unskilled entirely, right?
oh yeah,
And
totally. But like I think that's the point he's trying to make though. Like
yeah.
like the unskilled, not formerly trained people who manage to scrounge together and learn how to get around that can still defeat everybody. What are you going to do in the face of the skilled and trained people?
Well, and I also like how it's interesting and also correct that Darrow separates Harmony and her crew from the sons he used to know. Like he refers to them
Mhm.
as terrorists
Yeah.
when he never felt that way about the sons that he knew when he was training with well, I mean, when he was training with Harmony even and
Yeah, no,
with
I definitely
Dancer.
felt that. Like the vibes are fully different, which is
Mhm. And he Daryl reminds Harmony that the point of making him a gold was so that the sons would know how they think. And she's like, no, it was to position you to strike at their jugular. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that's not what Dancer said, though. Like,
pretty sure that is like literally not the point. Like the point was here and Harmony's just like looking this way. No, thank you.
purposefully,
She is that literal meme of like that stick figure saying something and then like the words the point floating over their head. That is her. She is that gif.
Now, we also, in another really good, again, don't want to call it a show, don't tell moment because it is kind of a tell moment, but in a really good way, we get more world building regarding the pinks. And this one was a real big ugh, for me. I mean, more so than the reds, more so than stuff we learn later in the series about other colors, because we learn that pinks are raised with implants. Like Evie tells Darrow that pinks are raised with implants in their bodies that cause constant pain, except for, I have to imagine it's like a button or something, right? Where the golds who are controlling them can just press the button when the pinks obey. So they are in constant pain, except for when they do what the gold wants. And then the gold, let's say, presses the button and the pain goes away. So they are trained to obey through literally experiencing pain all of the time, except for when they're given explicit, as far as I am reading this, uh, tasks, orders, whatever. And the device is not taken away until they are 12. And Evie believes because of this that golds need to feel pain and to fear it and to learn that they can't hurt low colors without consequence. And
Wait,
Poor Darrow is like, I thought golds were broken.
I thought it was more gross than that. The way, oof, I hate this. Okay, first of all, I already pinks were already the worst part of the society in my mind because
Mhm.
they are basically like bred to be
Sex slaves.
sex slaves.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but the way that I read this, and I believe the way that it was implied, was that they have that implant and they have that constant pain until they are about 12 years old, and the only reason it goes away is that they begin physically training to please golds, and the first time they physically please a gold, the pain no longer continues, so they think that that's what pleasure is when it's just the absence of pain.
So that is part of it. To be honest, I don't want to spoil anything. There's a worse part of it, but
Oh, yay.
we don't learn that quite yet.
Love it.
Yeah. I honestly can't remember if it's later in this book or in Morningstar, but there is something worse.
Great.
So
Amazing. It's already disgusting and I want to throw it out of my house.
yeah. Yep.
Love it.
Yep. Yep.
Great.
It's real bad. It's real dirty. So
Amazing.
Anyway, so
Very
Darrow,
fun.
poor Darrow is like, he's just like, God damn, I thought golds were fucked up, right? And he tells Harmony that he's sorry she lost everything she loved, but he is still fighting for his family who are still in a mine and for Eo's dream of a better world, not a bloodier one, which go Darrow. You're trying so hard, my dude. I mean, wrong audience for this, but you're trying. Because then, like, until, of course, Harmony shows him the full recording of Via's death, and he learns that she was pregnant when they hung her. And that was a reveal. I didn't the first time I read this series, none of that crossed my mind, right? So when this was revealed in Golden Sun, I was like,
I sort
fuck.
of, I like had to put the book down and just breathe for a second. I was like fully shook. And then I was like, oh no, Darrow had just sort of started to become a person again. This isn't gonna be good. And then he goes full suicide bomber, and I'm like, ah, yes, this isn't good. And of course, I did have the spoiler of knowing that, there's still like the whole rest of the book. So I was like, I know he doesn't do it, or he does it very, 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 very slowly for 5 more books. But oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
That's a big thing to it was one of those things where I still to this day I'm like, really, how did I not catch that that was probably what it was when she called her sister up, right?
I mean, there is
Instead
no
of
hint
him.
though. That's the thing.
No. No, there's none at all. There's none at
Like,
all, but there's still that part of you that's like, what did I miss?
yeah,
You
no,
know?
I also went back and I obsessively reread those sections. There is no hint. There is none. And I wish there was a hint because that would make it a little more satisfying to me because I always love it when like authors do that thing where they're like, here's the big reveal and you saw the hint all along. But that's just me. I also do enjoy a big reveal like this that's just like, here, have some more crippling trauma.
Well,
Well,
the only hint is that he talked to his sister instead of Darrow, right? I mean, that was the only
I
hint. It was something
I mean, we
major
always
that
knew
was
there
said.
was something there. It's just that
I
like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, that's really all my point was. We always knew there was some secret there, but like, I don't know. I always pictured like a more like chill secret, like, hey, please take care of Darrow, or I don't know, make sure he doesn't do anything batshit crazy, or like, normal sister requests versus her talking to Darrow and being like, hey, don't do anything batshit crazy. Whereas, if she tells her family to do it, it might actually follow through. But like, I thought it was like, normal level secret, not, oh, they straight up murdered a pregnant lady level secret. But
Well, I mean,
also,
they didn't know. Nobody knew but her.
I
And
mean, bold of you to assume though that if they knew, they wouldn't have, because I
oh,
think they would have been
absolutely
like,
they would
"Oh,
have.
murder her harder."
Yeah. No, yeah, that absolutely they would have. They don't give no shits. That said,
Have you considered
I
a double murder?
I will say on this particular reread, in which I marked Red Rising so many times that there's barely like 10 pages that go by without a little sticky tab on them. Uh, I will say that the way she was acting about the Laurel stuff and when she was like, I have something for you. I do think that is a hint that she was going to tell him something. But then when they lost the Laurel, like when he thought they were going to win the Laurel and they lost the Laurel and things went so bad, she was just like, nah, never mind. So, but I think that it's so tiny and subtle that you would only ever pick it up if you're looking for it, like,
Mhm.
and have read the whole book like so many times. And I can't say I disagree. Like the thing the thing about these books is sometimes you can predict it's kind of like the traps within traps within traps and plans and plots and within plans and plots. Like you always know that's going to happen because it happens so often in the first book that it's like clearly this is Pierce Brown's writing device. It's fine. It's good. He does it well, but you can still kind of predict it. And this was so subtle that it was like, it's just barely there if you've read these books like several times and you are really, really, really digging in and like looking at the way Eo words things and stuff. And even then, it could be missed, but it's so if it is there at all, and I do think it is, but I think it is so stupid subtle that it's just barely there. That said, uh Lord. So Darrow obviously is like, I'll do whatever you want. Well, he says he's gonna do whatever Aries wants, which in this case is apparently what Harmony wants, because I guess this is the way things are going now. uh, with uh with the Sons of Aries, supposedly. But he goes back to the Citadel and he is withdrawing from his friends and he's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And one of the things that he's kind of like, he's avoiding Roke and Victra, despite the fact that like earlier he told Roke that they were going to hang out and drink some wine and like wax on about Quinn's long legs and stuff, because Roke is in love with Quinn now, apparently, even though she hasn't been around like this entire book and for a while, even before this. But I feel like that's a Roke thing, is to be in love with somebody who's kind of far away and unattainable. Just saying. But Darrow finally, he has that sort of situation with Theodora where she is so anxious because she's so worried about him. And that it's sweet and sad, right? She cares about him. She cares about him so much that possibly for the first time since she's been with him, and possibly one of like very few, if ever, times in her life as a Rose, makes a mistake and spills wine all over his white costume suit, whatever the fuck it is. And she like I felt bad for Theodora, even knowing that Darrow would never beat her or yell at her for something so stupid. I still felt bad for her because like the way he is reacting to it, like how he says he sees just the abject like fear in her eyes. And I'm just like, "Ugh." She seems so chill and so cool, and I fucking hate that this is
Yeah,
how
no,
she feels.
I love Theodora, and it proves the point that like Darrow's trying his best, but to everybody else, he has become the monster.
I mean, I don't even think it's that he's become the monster. He just is the monster because he's a gold, right?
Exactly.
Like,
well, I mean, he did literally become the monster by physically transforming. That's what I meant.
He's the son.
Would that be Frankenstein's monster or Mr. Hyde?
Why not both?
I was gonna say he's Frankenstein's monster, but instead he's the Sons of Aries monsters. So it's because of Theodora spilling that wine and the fact that he's just like, Pat, it's okay. And he realizes that, like, that's literally what happens. He's just, because honestly, I feel Darrow in that moment, because that's how I am when my friends get super upset about things. I'm like,
how do
I love you. I am so sorry. Like my younger stepkid, same thing. It's like you are so freaking upset about something that I don't understand. And I guess that's the difference though. Darrow does understand why she's upset, but like he's still just like, Pat, you're fine. Right? You're okay. And he realizes that his kind, warm friend Roke would have known better. So that's when he decides, yeah, fuck no, I'm not letting Roke come to this gala where I'm going to, bomb all of these golds. Like, I can't let Roke die. And even though he knows that if he does survive, everybody's going to know it's him if Roke survives. He drugs Roke anyway. But I do have to say, I love when he shows up at Roke's room and he's just sitting there, like, perched very primly on the edge of his bed reading some book or book of poems or whatever. And he's like, Tactus, when he thinks I'm reading, he thinks I'm not doing anything. And then he says, there is no greater plague to an introvert than the extroverted. And I don't feel that because I am an extrovert, but I
He's
feel
not
that
wrong.
I feel that for all of my friends who are introverted because I have heard enough. And also it also makes me like, Pierce Brown, are you an introvert?
I think
Because
he might be. I think
yeah.
it takes an introvert to know that information.
Well,
We do not
he
usually
did turn us
target.
down for dinner, so
I was gonna bring that up. Was it a meme that randomly invited him to dinner at San Diego Comic Con? But then Darrow and Rogue, they really do have like a sweet little conversation. Like, and Rogue tells him his little pigeon story, how the pigeons are separated by war, and they grow up together and they love each other and they're separated by war and they think they'll never find each other again. But then when the war is over, they fly home and they do find each other again, as they were always destined to return home and find, instead of the past, their future. Because home isn't where you're from, it's where you find light when all grows dark. And he tells Darrow to find his home, that it may not be in the past, but find it and you'll never be lost again. And as much as Rourke frustrates me, the fact that he doesn't know anything about who Darrow really is, but he says, like, the fact that he says these words particularly is so poignant. And to be honest, it frustrates me a little that it's not this that changes Darrow's mind about the bombing.
Hmm.
That your home may not be in the past. Because, like, punch in the face. Hello, motherfucker. Surprise, motherfucker. It's not your dead wife who was apparently pregnant when she died. It's like, you have other things to live for. Live for more. Literally what your fucking wife told you to do. And this isn't what changes his mind? Ugh. Darrow, you're a frustrating, frustrating person.
I
I
got
feel
no further insight on that because I agree with all of that.
and then they
no. I mean,
go,
Darrow. Let's be fair. Despite being genetically altered to do great on exams, Darrow is not the swiftest knife in the drawer.
yeah, he's a little thick.
No. No, he's not.
Like, he's smart, but
He isn't.
not in, yeah,
He's
not in
a
the right
solid,
ways.
and he's a solid
he lacks
forever.
emotional intelligence.
Yup.
Which is proven time and time again in, I mean, in the earlier chapters, etc., or in the earlier chapters, especially of this book, like where he is already just not revealing his plans to his friends. Maddening, fucking maddening. Communication, my assholes. But they go to the gala, right? And there's the whole thing where, like, oh, heaven forbid, House Augustus has to ride in the same elevator as this, like, supposed lower house, House Falth, which, by the way, is Lilith's house, I believe. Lilith being the Jackal's little,
Bone
uh,
Rider.
yeah, little bone
Yes, yes.
rider from.
Also, I thought the concern was less, or rather, it was, yes, it was, oh my god, we're amongst a lesser house. How dare we have to share? But I thought it was more, what do you mean we need to leave our personal guards down? The fucking Bolognas are here.
Oh, I mean, it was a combination of both, right? Like, the having to ride in the elevator with any other house is, it's the sovereign showing the fact that she can take them down a peg, period.
Yes.
Leaving the Obsidians, and that's already worrisome because they're already in trouble because Augustus has been, in trouble for letting, quote unquote, the sons of Ares spread beyond Mars to Luna. Like, okay, dude, terrorist gonna terrorist. Like,
If your society was good enough that people didn't hate it and feel the need to terrorist, well,
Mhm.
maybe.
But yes, yeah, the worry about
Actually, no, I
safety.
fully take that back. I do not enjoy Harmony's decision making process. No, thank
No.
you.
Nope.
Also,
No.
I do not agree with just like the terming of them as as Sons of Ares as terrorist. Like, just not even like I know that's what they call them in the books and stuff, and like what the Golds view them as, but just like, nah, man, that ain't what that is. Y'all society sucks.
Well, I think the reason that well, obviously the Golds are always going to refer to them as terrorists. The
Oh
only
yeah, no,
reason
no.
Darrow of in this at the only reason Darrow in Golden Sun begins to refer to them as terrorists is because they are bombing areas
Oh
where
yeah, no,
they're
no, because
killing
of
local
Harmony.
like they're
Yeah,
killing their own people, right?
yeah, no,
So,
no, and I agree with that. That what Harmony's doing is like terrorist worthy, but I think that like I stand by Augustus. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Augustus that like the bombing is not in character for what Sons of Ares is trying to do. And like
mhm.
Augustus's whole like I don't think that's them. Like I haven't read further, but I like low key think Harmony's gone rogue. Like I like there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Like everything she's doing is like sus on many levels, and the fact that she's like no longer on Mars is sus. And I'm like the fact that she's bombing everybody and like quietly claiming it as Ares, but not loudly claiming it as Ares until now is very sus. I think she's gone rogue. She's got a separate terrorism Sons of Ares, and the regular Sons of Ares is like happy and good, led by, well, Dancer's dead, so led by somebody else. But I don't even know that I believe her that Dancer's dead because she's clearly full of lies and terrorism.
I did not realize you were that unsullied, Nami, that you have not read more than what
No.
we're up to.
Tommy is
No, I so
unsullied.
okay, so here's actually what happened, right? So I had a library loan for this for the audiobook and I did not realize it, but my loan expired like I want to say sometime mid last week and I didn't realize it was going to expire and that I couldn't renew it because there were two people waiting and there was one person waiting in line behind me. So I don't get that book back for another 14 or so days. So that meant that I had to speed listen to part 1 before this episode because I was like, I'm not going to get it back until after this episode. So all I got to listen to was part 1, and then I had to give it back to the library so they could give it to the other person. And then in about 7 or 8 more days, I get it back, and then I could read more.
Or you could actually buy a book.
No,
Mhm.
I'm not desperate enough yet. Although if I do finish Rhythm of War in the next like few days, I probably will buy it because then I won't have anything to read and I'll be grumpy. Or rather, I will have things to read, but it won't be exactly what I want to read right now. So,
I'm actually shocked that you have gotten through which one was Rhythm of War? Was that
that's the
the
fourth one.
Is that Brendan
Oh,
Sanderson?
that's all
Yeah.
there is, babe.
Yeah, I know. I'm traumatized. I don't know what I'm going to do after I finish.
Read Edge Dancer and Dawn Shard.
So I actually already read Edge Dancer, and I'm
Okay.
halfway through Dawn Shard.
Okay. Those are so good.
Edge
Anyway,
Dancer is amazing. I love Lift.
Edge
She's so
Dancer
silly.
and Dawn Shard are both fucking great. I love both of them.
Okay.
Anyway, though,
3 seconds pause.
not to aside with everybody
Right.
should read Brandon Sanderson because so Darrow gets up to the gala and he for whatever reason is like, I'm gonna go hang out with Carnus because like I guess at least he knows Carnus is gonna be like honest and like whatever with him. But Darrow tells Carnus, they're talking about pride, and Darrow says, pride is just a shout into the wind. And Carnus replies, I will die. You will die. We will all die, and the universe will carry on without care. All we have is that shout into the wind, how we live, how we go, and how we stand before we fall. So you see, pride is the only thing. And I'm just kind of like, I don't really think, like, Carnus, you're right. We all die, everything goes on, and we all have that shout into the wind, how we live and how we go, how we stand before we fall. but I don't really. Why does pride have to be the
I
thing
was
that
gonna
comes
say,
into that?
Karnas, I get your point, but also, buddy, I don't think that's pride. I think you decided it was pride for yourself. But
Hmm.
other people experience other human emotions and relations to people, which yes, it is our shout in the wind. It is the only thing we leave. It is our legacy. But our legacy isn't just our pride, bud. You okay there? I feel like your mom wasn't good for you, honey.
Yeah, your legacy is the things that you do and how you treat people and 100 other things, right? Not
Yo.
pride by itself, but okay, Karnas, you do you. Um, and then of course their whole conversation ends when Karnas is like, "Ha ha ha! You won't be missed," because Mustang comes in on Cassius's arm. And I did just want to point out how I really liked how Darrow, despite being jealous and upset, rightfully so, on the upset part, jealousy is jealousy, it is what it is, regarding Mustang being with Cassius, he knows that the real reason why he's hurting is because he knows that Mustang is not being petty.
Mm-hmm.
That if she is with his enemy, if she is with Cassius, it's because she cares about him. And
I was gonna
I
say, in a
mean,
way, that's like so much sadder.
oh, it's so sad.
So much sadder. I was like, a part of me would rather want her to just be with him because she's petty. Cause I would rather like if she was my ex, I was deeply in love with, I would rather her be petty towards me and have me be her focus than have her genuinely care about somebody else who was also my sworn enemy. Like,
Yeah.
what? I hate all of this. Darrow, no, I'm so sorry, sweetie.
Yeah, but I mean, Cassius being his sworn enemy is somewhat understandable. I mean, it's Cassius's behavior was somewhat understandable.
Cassius's behavior is somewhat understandable. Yes, Cassius is still a fucking hypocrite, and
Thank you.
want I don't I don't as much as I get Cassius being upset, if he had an ounce of like sympathy in his body for like what other people were forced to do, what did he expect Darrow to do? Roll over and fucking die? Did he roll over and
Yes.
fucking die? No, he didn't. Don't be a hypocrite. If you can't do it yourself, don't you fucking dare ask somebody else to do it.
Well,
And that's why I hate Cassius.
I still wonder, had Darrow been upfront with him, what would
Doubt
if
it.
it would have been different.
Well, and I think what I want to point out here, and this is a little bit of a throwback, Pollux, one of the guys who eventually allies himself with Titus, but literally only because he's trying to survive, sort of thing. Like he allies himself with whoever he thinks is gonna win. And Pollux tells Darrow, I was paired with a girl. Like, I had to murder a girl.
Oh, I missed that.
Yes. Yeah, in book 1. So, like, that's the thing. Like, oh, when Darrow killed your brother in the, and listen, yes, it's fucking sad. Darrow didn't want to do it. Dude sat with Julian's head in his lap and sobbed over this kid who he barely knew dead body because he knew Julian was good and he didn't want to have to do it. But he also knew that he had a goal, and that goal was to get through the institute, to win the institute, so that
I
he
don't
could.
think I don't think that was what was going through his head at the time.
No,
I
it
think
absolutely was.
no,
He like
his
literally
goal was
thought
to
it.
survive to the next day. When someone's trying to bash your head in, you generally will fight back. I think that's pretty much human nature. I don't think in that
Yeah,
moment
that's human
he's
nature.
like, well, the only reason I'm going to win this fight is so that Red can rise. I don't think that's really going through his mind at the time.
Oh, it absolutely was. Like he did not. That's the thing. He did not want to do it. Julian was even like, please, you can go and like you can escape here. And Darrow's like, nah, dude, you don't really understand the rules. And I don't know. Regardless of
Well, I
Well,
think
regardless, it's like
those,
the absolute hypocrisy of it though. Because
yeah,
like the problem isn't it's not even the hypocrisy. the problem is that if Cassius had any sort of idea of what, like, if Cassius had any caring about who the actual villain is, he would know and realize that the villain is Augustus for getting Julian in the academy, god damn it, in the institute in the first place, and for putting him up against anybody, a tool who would be capable enough to kill him. Like Cassius knows what the game is. Cassius knows what the rules are. So the fact that he is taking all of his aggression out on the tool instead of the bearer is absolutely absurd. He's a shitty person.
Yeah. In this instance, absolutely, yeah.
In this instance, Cassius could have, I get it. I get him not being friends with Darrow. I get him hating Darrow. I don't get him knifing Darrow and ditching him in the stream when Darrow was his best bet to be an ally so they could win. So Cassius could have been Primus versus the Jackal, the son of Adrius, so that he could have gained another stronger ally for House Bologna. Cassius is not only a hypocrite and a jackass, he's also an idiot.
Yeah, he's dumb. Dumb.
Well, yeah. I always thought he wasn't very slim.
I don't like him so much because I dislike him so much because I get everybody in this society has clearly faced loss. And if you're a gold, you are clearly conditioned to know what the rules are and how things work. And there's been a war ongoing with these two families. He gets it. He knows what they've done. And the fact that he's out here and he's blaming nobody McStranger dude from far off shitty dead orphan planet. Cassius sucks. Thank you. That's it. That's all.
But that said, you know, Darrow
I will never get over how much Cassius sucks. I would like to say that. I don't really think there's anything Cassius could do for me to no longer think he sucks. Except for being hey dude, I was a hypocrite and I sucked and I'm really sorry for not hating the mastermind and hating you when you didn't have a choice. And unless that similar or exact speech comes from his mouth, no thanks.
Yeah. But it's still, I don't know, like I said, it's still really telling that Darrow's fuck. My girl's with my enemy. And I know she wouldn't be with him.
She's not just with his enemy, she's with his nemesis.
Yeah. She wouldn't be with him if she didn't care about him. And it's because of that he kind of just storms out. I guess he doesn't really storm out. He just leaves. I think if he'd stormed out, it would have caused more of a scene.
He just quietly walked away in the most subtle manner that Darrow possesses.
Yeah, which isn't very subtle, but it's subtle enough in this case. And when he goes down and has his little intrusive thought tete-a-tete, he has a tete-a-tete with his intrusive thoughts in the forest. And he's thinking about Harmony's plan to have him bomb the gala. And he thinks killing them proves nothing. It solves nothing. Io said if I rose, others would follow. But I've not yet risen. I've not yet done as she asked of me. I'm not an example. I am an assassin. I do not have an excuse to give up, to hand her dream to others. Ares never knew Io. He never saw the spark in her. I did. Before I draw my last breath, I must build the world she wanted to raise our child in. That was her dream. That was why she sacrificed, so others would not have to. And I will not let others decide my fate. Not now. I do not trust in Ares if it means I must reject Io. Not if it means I must sacrifice trust in myself. And so instead he decides to start that one thing golds fear most, civil war.
I can't believe I haven't read more. I need to know what he does. I need to know.
Everything about.
Shall I send you the book via Amazon tomorrow?
Oh my god! Don't. It's okay. I appreciate it, but I also am really bad at reading physical books in comparison to ebooks and audiobooks. I literally am sitting here next to the thinnest stack here, and I just haven't read them because
that is such a generational thing because my my copies of the original 3 books are in were in South Carolina. I lent them to somebody and then they ended up in like a storage shed somewhere, like a storage unit somewhere. So I bought myself the first book I had returned to me. So I do have my original copy, my arc of the first book, but the second and third books I just went and bought on Amazon. And then I actually went and bought myself a paperback copy of Iron Gold because the only copy of Iron Gold I have is signed by Pierce Brown. And I was like, I'm not fucking
Well,
this up.
so interestingly, my need for ebooks is actually a little bit different than that. So one for like after like during and after college, I didn't read for a very long time because I didn't have the energy for real books, and also just because I read an absurd amount of fan fiction just on my phone. So because of that phone reading, I got really used to just reading on my phone and reading like ebook type format stuff because it felt like reading fan fiction, so it was like easier and less effort to do. But the other reason is, so y'all probably, well, viewers will remember that I had glasses and I got LASIK about a year ago now at this point, but I was blind as a bat, which means that I could hold a book this far away, like 5 inches away from my face, and not be able to see the writing on it. So the only way I could read without wearing my glasses was to have something this close to my face. And it just felt really unwieldy with a physical book. And also, I couldn't lay down on my bed with my glasses and read a physical book. So because of that, it became like reading on phone. And I've had like a decade of doing that now. And so like the habit of getting back into reading physical books is a bit more because it's like I have like so many ebooks now that it's like, oh, if I'm gonna read, I'll just read an ebook. It's easier. It's on my phone. I don't even need to turn the
I
lights.
don't know how you read on your phone. I'm a Kindle addict, but the
Mm-hmm.
idea of reading on the phone is just, I can't do it. I actually misplaced my Kindle a couple of days ago and I can't find it. And
Whoa.
yeah, well,
I'm so sorry, Jonathan. That sounds like hell.
it's bad. The irony is it hasn't been as much hell as normal because I am reading the first physical book I've read in about 7 years.
That'll
Because
do it.
I was given a book a number of years ago that I always wanted to read, and I couldn't justify just buying a new one since I had this physical copy that was given as a birthday gift. And it's Titan, the biography of Rockefeller. So
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. I had a Kindle for a while. I tried it. It was great for when I went to Europe for like 3 weeks, right? But other than that, I don't care. Like
Yeah,
I
I mean,
want
I
I want to
also
hold a book in my hand. I want to turn the pages.
honestly, I as much as I love that, like for me, it was just practicality because like I read too fast to take books on vacation with me.
Mm.
Because if I take a book with me on vacation, I'm done it within like 10% of the vacation. It doesn't serve its purpose. So like for me, it was either like e-read and read everything or bring one giant heavy book with you and break your entire back. And I was like, well, I broke my back and now my back cannot hold the book. So
but
now we do the ebook.
yeah, I mean, it's just so much easier. You can carry all your books with you. It's just.
Don't have
I,
to haul this
I'll be embarrassed. We
around.
gave away. I gave away 95% of my books. Maybe even 99%.
I give away a lot of books. I gave away the entire Temeraire series.
What? How dare you? No.
Okay. So, any last thoughts on Darrow deciding to, not be a suicide bomber before we close out?
Very
Well,
glad he didn't do
this
that.
is.
Suspected he wouldn't because there's the rest of the series.
Mm.
Was like 99% sure that wasn't the way it was gonna go, but there was also like 3 seconds of him being like, but my pregnant wife is dead, and I'm like, I know, buddy, you're not having a good time.
I mean, granted, it would have been a great Ned Stark moment had he done so, and then they switched POV characters to who knows, Severo or something. But
Zoom in on Cervo, looking at unicorn porn. Severo.
what did I miss something in this about unicorn porn? Was that actually mentioned in this book?
It's like a passing thing that Darrow is like, I haven't seen Severo in a long time, but he sends me these like emails essentially that usually include like weird
Oh,
dirty
yeah,
pictures of
okay.
unicorns.
Yeah. Yeah,
Weird.
I just assume Severo is the secret author to Banged from Behind by the T-Rex that got nominated for the Hugo many years ago.
Oh my god.
Oh, you don't know about that, Nami?
I've heard of it, and I'm
Severo
very
Severo is actually the author of My Immortal.
Oh, what's My Immortal? Is that another
Oh
equally
my god.
dubious?
How do you not know My Immortal?
I think my immortal is a little more younger than Jonathan.
Mm,
It is basically very terrible Harry Potter fan fiction.
mhm.
Like like not just like bad because it's a self-insert of the author, but like very, 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 very objectively poorly written, terrible, memeable. It has been memed for years. Let me see if I can find the opening sequence of My Immortal.
Oh, it takes about 2 seconds to find the opening sequence. But like this is the shit that I mean, not this specifically, but this is the type of shit that I imagine Severo is sending to Darrow. Like,
Okay.
look at this awful shit that I've been enjoying in my kind
Exile.
of exile. Yeah.
What I didn't figure out is who was he work? Mustang went to the political academy. He's at the,
So Darrow makes a specific comment about how he believes that Pliny
yeah, no,
sends.
that I got. But the question is, what has Severo been doing?
Oh, they're protecting like mining shipments or something like that
Okay.
way out in the rim.
Okay, Jonathan, I found it. So, this is for you, Jonathan. I hope you're happy.
And
Chapter
for our
1.
2 watchers right now, and for anybody who watches this as a webcast, because I'm not gonna cut this out.
Hi, my name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway, and I have long ebony black hair, parentheses, that's how I got my name, end parentheses, with purple streaks and red tips that reach my mid-back and icy blue eyes like limpid tears, and a lot of people tell me that I look like Amy Lee, parentheses, and if you don't know who she is, get the hell out of here, parentheses, end sentence. I'm not related to Gerard Way, but I wish I was because he's a major fucking hottie. I'm a vampire, but my teeth are straight and white. I have pale white skin. I'm also a witch, and I go to a magic school called Hogwarts in England, where I'm a 7th year, parentheses, and I'm 17, parentheses. I'm a goth, parentheses, in case you couldn't tell, end parentheses, and I wear mostly black. I love Hot Topic, and I buy all my clothes from there. For example, today I was wearing a black corset with matching lace around it and a black leather miniskirt, pink fishnets, and black combat boots. I was wearing black lipstick, white foundation, black eyeliner, and red eyeshadow. I was walking outside Hogwarts. It was snowing and raining, so there was no sun, which I was very happy about. A lot of preps stared at me. I put up my middle finger at them. Hey, Ebony, shouted a voice. I looked up. It was Draco Malfoy. What's up, Draco? I asked. Nothing, he said shyly. But then I heard my friends call me, and so I had to go away. Chapter 2. The next day, I woke up in my bedroom. It was snowing and raining again. I opened the door of my coffin and drank some blood from a bottle I had. My coffin was black ebony, and inside it was hot pink velvet with black lace on the ends. I got out of my coffin and took my giant MCR t-shirt, which I used for pajamas. Instead, I put on a black leather dress, a pentagram necklace, combat boots, and black fishnets on. I put on 4 pairs of earrings on my pierced ears and put my hair in a kind of messy bun. My friend Willow, author's note, Raven, this is you! Woke up and then grinned at me. She flipped her long waistlet raven black hair with pink streaks and opened her forest green eyes. She put on her Marilyn Manson t-shirt with the black mini, fishnets, and pointy high-heeled boots. We put on our makeup, parentheses, black lipstick, white foundation, and black eyeliner, end parentheses. OMFG, I saw you talking to Draco Malfoy yesterday, she said excitedly. Yeah, so? I said, blushing. Do you like Draco? She asked as we went out of the Slytherin common room and into the Great Hall. No, I so fucking don't! I shouted. Yeah, right, she exclaimed. Just then, Draco walked up to me. Hi, he said. Hi, I replied flirtily. Guess what? He said. What? I said. Well, Good Charlotte are having a concert in Hogsmeade, he told me. Oh my fucking god, I screamed. I love GC. They are my favorite band, besides MCR. Well, do you want to go with me? He asked. I gasped. End chapter.
That's really bad.
You have
And,
no
and,
idea.
and now you're
It
going to tell
only
me
gets
there's a
worse.
whole novel of this.
Oh yes, no, it is a full fan fiction. It is many, many words. Way too many words. Yeah. I've actually never read the whole thing,
Me
despite
either.
like intending to, but every single time I'll like get like a few chapters in and then it's so painful that I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And I stop. But like every few years I retry it, just like it's like the My Immortal challenge, you know? How far can you get into My Immortal before you
What
give up?
I've never understood about fan fiction is how anyone successfully separates the wheat from the chaff.
It's hard, but you
Yeah.
become a pro at it. I am a pro at it. It's
I
my
mean,
favorite skill.
Archive of Our Own really does help with that. I'm sure there's some great Red Rising fan fiction.
Mm.
I got into this series too late to ever go looking for fanfic, but or write it
Jealous.
myself, but all right, well, on that note, as we close out this episode, we just want to give a shout out to our heroes, to our patron, Tommy of the TKOK Podcast Network. Thank you so much for supporting us. Once again, I'm Tara, along with fellow hosts Jonathan and Nami. Don't forget that you can always hit us up at Sagas and Sass on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube now, or email us at sagasandsass@gmail.com with any questions or thoughts you might have. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We will be back on Wednesday, November 16th to cover part 2 of Golden Sun. Bye.
Bye.